This is my final video. I started this video channel in 2011. I called it Vaping for the Over 60s. Now I'm in my 70s. Maybe I've just got old and crabby, but I'm not going to make any more videos or write about vaping anymore. Firstly, there are wonderful videos on the internet about vaping and vaping products, or at the moment there are. The disappointment in me is that videos by vapers promoting vaping might be shut down, as the cage of hate about vaping constricts us, and freedom of speech is closed down by those who control us. So right now, in June 2018, in England, we are free to spread the word that vaping is a good thing. In the UK, there seems to be a saner attitude to vaping. It is allowed by our controllers. You can buy devices freely, and vaping is sanctioned as a helpful thing for smokers to quit smoking. But I haven't used vaping to quit smoking, though of course I have. I smoked for 50 years. As the regulations against smoking seeped into society and smokers became the persecuted minority, I vowed I would never give it up. The word quit is a word put about by tobacco control to give the idea that stopping smoking is a flippant thing that anyone can do. I don't believe that. People smoke for reasons other than simply being hooked on nicotine. It has always been nicotine that has been blamed. Yet with the advent of vaping, a lot of ideas should have been jettisoned about nicotine. Nicotine was the bad boy in smoking that, we were told, addicted us and killed us. Tobacco control lied to themselves and the world by demonizing nicotine. There are still people who think that nicotine causes cancer, and that it is what enslaves us to smoking. From my own experience as an enslaved smoker, it is something else in burning tobacco, some combination of chemicals that my body topped up with every time I smoked a cigarette. As a vapor now, I never get the frantic meltdown if I do not vape that used to overcome me without a cigarette. There is some other factor in inhaled tobacco that creates the craving. I vape about 3 mils of e-liquid a day. I mix my own. The amount of nicotine is at strengths between 1.1 and 0.6%. It doesn't seem to matter what strength of nicotine it is, but flavor is important to me. I used to often vape pure vegetable glycerine without nicotine or flavoring. It is pleasantly sweet, but currently I only have aqueous vegetable glycerine, which is bland, uninteresting, and tasteless. I switched to vaping as a substitute for smoking. It was never my intention to, as they say, quit. Smoking is deeply rooted in my psyche, and I believe it is rooted that way in many people. Smoking is a comfort to me, a way to fill a hole, a pleasurable activity, meaningful. It is the mark of peak experiences, deep lows, celebrations, triumphs, a friend that accompanies me through my life, my best friend. How thoughtless it is for someone to tell me I must simply quit. It is more realistic to consider the idea that many people, for whatever psychological reason, who smoke, do not simply quit, but abandon a friend. The depression that such people feel, the emptiness, the loneliness, the heavy hearts, are because they are suffering grief. I could never face the grief. So vaping for me was the substitution of one friend for another. I have been such a happy vapor. I achieved what tobacco control wanted. I stopped smoking. But now I see some kind of insanity in the world that has grown up around vaping. In some countries, it's illegal. Even possessing vaping paraphernalia can get you in prison. Don't think this is some primitive backward society somewhere remote. It is happening in so-called civilized countries. In some, nicotine is illegal. Nicotine? Instead of the welcoming of a technology that could truly make people give up their best friends and discover a new friend, we have prohibition, false science, scare stories, and persecution. Those responsible are the same tobacco control that are on a mission to make the whole world smoke-free and destroy the tobacco industry. They are using the same tactics about vaping. In the UK, we already have restrictions on the size of our tanks, the strength of our e-liquid, and, the most frustrating thing of all, the tiny 10ml bottles in which we have to buy e-liquid. This, for a disabled person, drives me nuts. Also, we now are producing and discarding millions of little bottles. But at least in the UK, vaping is not illegal. Since I have been vaping, vapors themselves have changed. The absolute joy and camaraderie of discovering vaping has evaporated. There is my kind of vapor, the kind that still thinks of themselves as a smoker who now vapes, that has switched friends, so to speak, and then there's the other kind of vapor, who is a bitter anti-smoker. Anti-smoking vapors are not doing good. They simply alienate smokers. They regurgitate the anti-smoking dogma that has poisoned them. They quit from fear and compliance. I don't care if people smoke or vape. Smokers have had enough persecution. They must be the most discriminated group on earth in the West. There has been no consideration shown to smokers in the UK, though some European countries have not been so terminally infected by anti-smoking lobby groups. For me, watching how tobacco control has promoted themselves worldwide frightens me. It is totalitarian at its clearest. It means to me that any ideology using the same tactics could gradually remove our right to be free. The strongest tool that tobacco control used, by design, planned at their conference when they were first forming, and on purpose, was that they could claim second-hand smoke was affecting others, and that smokers were not only killing themselves, but everyone else too. They used that to drive their ideology. As of now, how dangerous second-hand smoke is has not been proved. Couples in which one partner smoked and the other didn't have been studied over lifetimes without producing any proof of fatal dangers for the non-smoker. This is important in considering how tobacco control is infecting the minds of society to also demonize vaping. What is our vapor doing to others? How frightened can they make society of us? So as I become more satisfied with devices vapors can buy, they are getting better and better, I get more alarmed by how this wonderful friend I have is being demonized by anti-smokers. To me, it is tragic how vaping has not been accepted for the pleasure it gives millions, or, in my own experience, the ability to switch this devoted smoker, me, to a substitute friend, to quit, to enthuse me to actually make videos for 7 years, to write blogs, defend and talk about vaping. If vaping did that to me, it can change millions of people. And of course it has. Unwittingly, this humble video channel, Vaping for the Over 60s, has encouraged hundreds of people to stop smoking. I know, because they write to me. I thank everyone for watching my videos, which I'm going to leave up as historical. I will leave it all here until YouTube removes me for so-called promoting vaping. Younger people than me need to go on fighting the fight. A lot of you don't remember the bad old days where people were free in an old-fashioned world full of smokers. You cannot know the imagination, creativity, optimism of writers, artists, movie makers, and society in general in those days. It seems to have disappeared now. A pall of depression has fallen over us. Society is being altered, dumbed, manicured. It has become a topiary where every stray shoot is being nipped off so that everyone conforms to the design of the controllers. Everyone in the West is complaining. They complain their rights are violated by this, that, or the other thing. Suicide rates have risen, and the obsession with lifestyle has overtaken the spontaneity of enjoying a life. No one smokes behind the shed in school anymore, or uses smoking as a rite of passage. They use much more dangerous stuff. Children are ashamed of their parents for smoking, drinking, or being fat. School makes them so by telling children how dangerous to life smoking, drinking, and eating is. Their parents are killing themselves. How frightening that must feel about someone you love. There are parents agonizing about the behaviors of their children too. We are obsessed with vice, but smoking is the greatest evil of all. I wonder sometimes, in this time of war, the war on smoking, war on drugs, drink, food, thought, hate, men, bullying, and the many other wars of the modern age, how the world would have been for young people had there been no wars, how life would be in a society where lobby groups were not allowed to partake in government, where drugs were legal and medically controlled, where the rite of passage was a cigarette, or sex was a thing you did rather than simply watched, and where people were free to not take offence. It is politically incorrect to speak about many things that were once openly discussed, and in the UK, in the 20 years I have lived here, the people I know have become more reticent, more tight-lipped, and more fearful of simply being themselves. We are being mentally sanitized in the West. Newspeak is the new speak. We have entered George Orwell's 1984. I ask young people listening to me to investigate how the world has changed since the times we were free from excessive regulation. How gradually you are being muzzled, manipulated, and brainwashed. Us oldies will not be here much longer. we have revealed a stunning truth that despite eating all wrong, smoking and drinking all wrong, being disciplined all wrong, being groped, flirted with, raped even, in a society run by men, we survived. We even flourished. We are the longest living generation of all time. Everyone nowadays has a better standard of living, better medical technology, better choices in food, clothing, and most material things than we had. And most people can read and write. With all the wrong ways we were treated that in these times would be considered shocking, and all the wrong behaviors we practiced in our lifestyle that are frowned on now, my generation developed true grit, produced wonderful music, comedy, literature, poetry, science, and ideas that changed the world. And we did it in a smoking world. Be aware of the danger of a world full of those promoting their own ideologies in the name of health or happiness. They are getting governments to legislate your every action. Be skeptical of anything that regulates your thoughts. Be skeptical of so-called science. Investigate the funding, the bias, the motive of the scientists doing the science. Believe nothing just because you are told to. Health follows happiness, and happiness can develop when you are free. If you smoke, smoke without guilt. Many smokers do not die from smoking. If you vape, vape without guilt. We are the big experiment that is worth it. Do not let the tight-lipped disapprovers get you down. And to both smokers, vapers, and those who are interested in liberty, resist totalitarianism of any kind. If you haven't, read or watch the films of George Orwell's book, 1984. Thank you for vaping with me. I wish you joy.